Yeah, give me a minute.
I'm sorry I can't tell you everything. But maybe we can work something out. But first I'd like to hear something about you, my son. With whom do I have the honor? Where are you from?
I'm from Skalitz.
Oh, I'm sorry. What about your kin?
They're dead.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Here, we'll drink to them. It must have been terrible.
It was terrible. It seemed so pointless. We had no warning. They just appeared and began the slaughter. God knows why. They killed anyone who didn't make it to the shelter of the castle. My parents, my girl, even the Deutsch who was on Sigismund's side. I didn't make it to the castle. I wanted to try and help my parents, but there was nothing I could do. Then I fled to Talmberg with the Cumans on my heels. They almost killed me. They slaughtered people in the surrounding villages. There was a pile of bodies in front of the church in Rovna. Folk who tried to take refuge there, but they...
My poor child. May God grant them eternal rest. And how did you come to get this assignment? I'd have expected Sir Hanish to send that old grouch, Bernard.
You think I'm too young for the job, Father?
I do, to tell the truth.
Well, I can only apologise for my lack of grey hair and gout.
Now the most important thing. What actually happened at Neuhof? The good folks hereabout are saying all kinds of terrible things, but I take most of it with a pinch of salt.
The rumours aren't exaggerated this time, unfortunately. The Neuhof stud farm was raided by bandits, but they didn't come to pillage or even take the horses. They only wanted to kill. They maimed the horses and slaughtered some people. I'm sure they would have killed more, but the bandits quarrelled among themselves and broke off the attack. And judging by what's left of our Lubosh, they're still settling accounts.
I see it's every bit as bad as people claimed. Dreadful. Well then, here's to those poor souls who had to die so pointlessly and so terribly.
I've told you all about me. Now it's your turn, Father. You don't look much like our parish priest at home. Well, we've had an agreeable chat, but now let's get down to business. So, about this confessional seal. Do you really want more innocent people to die?
Henry, that's not how it works. There are matters in which you can't make exceptions because if you do it once, you'll forever be tempted to do it again. If people stop believing in the church because their confessional secrets are betrayed, they won't trust anyone, and that's worse than even the most hideous crime.
Oh, you're just making excuses. The people who say the church is corrupt are right. You don't care about anyone, only your own comfort.
I'm sorry you see it that way. Really sorry. You've no idea how wrong you are.
I always wondered about the things a priest tells his congregation. Where on earth do you get the ideas for your sermons?
Well, Ujits isn't Prague. It's not enough to instruct people. They have to be entertained, too. If I only read from the Bible, I'd soon be preaching to an empty church.
Our priest wasn't exactly a bard.
A tankard, here!
So what do you preach to your flock about?
It has to be something topical, condemning vices, and of course describing them in detail. A tongue lashing about the two popes goes down well these days, and stories from real life with a nice moral to them are popular as well, especially if they're about fornication and similar scandalous vices.
Can you give me an example?
Well, recently a priest by the name of Jan Hus started preaching in Prague, in the Czech language, and the people liked it. I hear he always has a full house. A journeyman who heard him told me what Hus is preaching, and I like the sound of it. I'm thinking about putting it in my own repertoire.
What's so amazing about it?
The preaching of Master Jan Hus about Mother Church. The lamentable wealth in which the church is drowning has turned to poison, and nearly the whole of Christendom is contaminated. Just like a flock of hungry ravens, they settled on this land to devour every grain of gold and silver. They know no mercy. Their hearts are corrupted by longing for wealth, and they shamelessly profit from everything. You want to baptize a child? Pay. You want to steal and murder? Pay and you will have absolution. What if the devil himself were to pay? Would he ascend to heaven too? With such money gained from the poor, they buy beautiful horses to ride and needless servants to pamper them. They gamble at dice and dress their whores in expensive furs, while Jesus Christ walked barefoot and had no place to lay his head. Look to your consciences, you robbers of the poor, for you are seen by God and his people too. Amen.
Well, this Jan Hus character is quite a rebel.
Oh, the congregation will love it.
I don't doubt it.
Let's drink to that.
Here, enjoy.
Funny. That last bit reminds me of someone.
What do you mean? My situation's completely different. Huth preaches against the prelates and the clerics who are robbing the poor. Look at me. I don't have a pot to piss in. I'm no better off than the folk I preach to. I'm one with them in poverty and suffering and everything that troubles them. I drink with them and curse those stuffed habits in Sasau Monastery.
What do you think of this Jan Hus?
He's certainly a wise man. A little overzealous for my taste. If he got out of Prague and came here for a look, I'm sure he'd stop condemning drinking and lying with women.
Where can I find out more about his teachings?
You like it? I copied down some of his sermons. If you're interested, you can read them at my presbytery.
What do the common folk think of it?
They like it. They're happy to hear someone say what they think themselves, but are afraid to say aloud. Things that make them angry. And they're calling for change. In a few years, it'll have grown beyond control. You mark my words, the people will rise up, and the church will be shaken to its very foundations.
Yeah, unless they burn him at the stake first.
Nonsense. They can't burn a master of the most respected university in Europe.
Thanks for the sermon, but I think I've been morally uplifted enough. Oh, it's getting quite late. What are your plans, Father?
What do you suppose? We have a drink, of course.
Ah, that sounds like a good plan.
I knew you wouldn't let me down.
Przyszła bida mora lat, to nie ustoi żadnej chlap. Na kraj padł dziesnej smutek, do dnie i rano utek, niech ich małżeński majstrat, do wczera żylne staje krak. Už sejmoj svatý muži, nechtěl bych bejbě jich muži. Nám je to jedno a tak si dáme jedno a požerem si huby jako poslední den. Buďme se vámi a to ráda slávy a tak vypal sudy a posaď se mi sem. Tak posaď se sem a vypal je ven. Ukaž kozy jako vozy, zejtra jen tu soudnej den. Tak nalej mi hned a skočí se svět.
Enough of this!
Bailiff, come on over here, sit down and have a drink with us.
Don't vex me again, Father. It's 3 hours past dusk, and curfew is long gone.
So what?
So, I'll have you all whipped and put in the stocks, and I'll write a letter to the bishop about you, priest.
Well, nothing to worry about then. Everyone knows the only one around here who can write is me.
Enough! Men, throw them out.
You looking for a fight? Henry, back me up.
Take that! The beast.
Here, enjoy.
God, as you like, rough. You're gonna
Show what you're made of.
go. Is that the best you can do?
I've only got 2 hands. I'll fix it right away.
You think because I'm a man of the cloth I won't kick your arse?
Jesus!
Ah!
Coming right up.
So, my dear, wouldn't you like to have a little ring on the bell? No sooner said than done.
I'd love to. And Henry, too, I'm sure. Right, Henry?
Stop that nonsense, Godwin. Are you out of your mind? What will people say?
They can say what they like. What do I care? What do they do to me? Watch the step, my dears. Careful, you don't hurt yourself.
Godwin, you're a buffoon.
Here we are. Look at this beauty.
Oh. We can't do this, can we?
Who says? Get ringing, wench.
This is wonderful.
Ah, bloody oath.
And now, my dears, comes the climax of the evening.
Godwin, you old goat.
Come here. Oh.
The priest has mounted up. What do you say, Henry? Shall we take a little ride of our own?
Well, I have to say that was a fine evening.
Godwin, you beast. Get up. Do you hear me? Wake up, you drunkards.
Oh, fucking hell. Where the... Oh, what the... Oh, who the hell are you? Oh, Henry. My great friend, Henry. Didn't we have a wonderful time?
Well, you certainly did, you old lecher. Now you better pull yourself together quick. You haven't much time. There's some water and something to eat on the table there, but if I were you, I would move my hairy arse before my flock eats me alive.
Oh, step on in my head. My guts. Oh, my poor suffering stomach. Oh, what was that woman on about? Before my flock eats me alive. I've forgotten something. What have I forgotten?
Where the fuck am I?
What the fuck was it? Oh. Mass! Oh, shit, I have to say Mass. I gotta say Mass. You have to help me.
How? You're the priest.
I can't do it in this state. Maybe the liturgy. But I have to give a sermon as well. Oh, this is a disaster. They're gonna excommunicate me.
I'd like to help you, but...
You can. You can do the sermon for me.
What? So, first I investigate a murder no one wants investigated. Then I drunkenly keep the whole town up all night. And now you want me to preach at them from the pulpit? Do you want them to burn us at the stake?
No. No, I've got it. Suppose that Sir Ratzig's protege. You just came from studying in Prague. And you want to share the words of Master Jan Hus, who you recently heard preaching there. Henry, look. From what I remember, we might have overdone it a bit last night. And if the bailiff or someone else complains about me, the bishop's gonna have my guts for garters. So I'd appreciate it. Stop gaping at me like a stuffed squirrel and start helping.
You're mad. You're stark raving mad.
I'm not. It's a perfect plan. It's flawless. Oh. How about this? If you help me with this, I'll tell you who Lubosh's cronies are.
Well, all right. Well, I can't make any promises about what'll happen.
No, neither can I.
What do you want me to do exactly?
I'll go and start the liturgy. Then I'll introduce you. You give the sermon I told you yesterday in the tavern, and that's that. No need to drag it out. If it turns out well, I'll tell you what I know about Lubosh.
Christ almighty. Fine then. We have a deal.
Wonderful. Let's get to it then.
Hey!
I thought he'd never show up. The swill pup.
Look at him. He can hardly walk after his capers last night.
You were with them, you beast. Just you wait.
Look at him. Mother of God, any minute now he'll throw up.
Animals, I couldn't sleep a wink last night with all that clamor.
In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Accepit panem in sanctas at venerabiles a manus suas. Hac facite in meam commemorationem. Brothers and sisters, you may have had the honor of meeting Henry from Skalitz, who is here at the behest of Sir Hanush to investigate that heinous crime at Neuhof. You might not know that Henry recently visited Prague, where, by the grace of God, was able to hear Master Jan Hus from the esteemed Charles University preaching. I've managed to persuade Henry to stand here today in my stead and tell us what he heard. Because, as you all probably know, Jan Hus is a very popular preacher in Prague. So, Henry, you may begin.
Now I'm curious which one of them will puke first.
Brothers and sisters, let me get straight to the point. I'd like to talk about the church and how corrupt it is.
That boy has a cheek.
Just as we are commanded to obey the priests in matters of virtue, so are we commanded to defy them face to face if they live contrary to God's commandments.
Hear that, Godwin?
It is the corruption of God's pastors here on earth that has brought misfortune on our heads. Plague, cumens, hunger, and chaos. The accursed wealth that the church is drowning in is poisoning almost the whole of Christendom. When dogs are fighting over a bone, take the bone and they will stop. Just like the flock of ravens that has descended on this land to peck up every speck of gold and silver. They show no mercy. Their hearts are poisoned by covetousness. They trade everything. Everything is for sale. You want to baptize a child? Pay. You want to steal and murder? Pay, and you will have absolution. And the prelates sin and give themselves absolution.
For shame. Shame upon them.
And what sins? They live with harlots and keep concubines, even though only marital intercourse for the purpose of procreation is pure. If someone takes a woman or man only to satisfy their own lust, who seduces them to do so but Satan? And how much darker the sin if that man is a servant of the church? Who can turn his face to God, who fornicates and then puts on priestly robes?
Nothing we don't know about already.
Enough about sin, which the prelates are so fond of preaching about, and whose absolution they promise if you only pay enough coin to Mother Church. What if the devil himself were to pay? Will the bishops tell us he too would ascend to heaven? And what about those bishops? They sin without remorse, and with the money grasped from the poor for indulgences, they keep fine horses and hordes of servants to pamper them. They play dice and garb their mistresses in expensive furs, while Christ, the Lamb of God, walked barefoot and had nowhere to lay his head. Look to your consciences, you robbers of the poor, for you are seen by God and his people too.
Down with the prelates! Away with them!
We're fortunate to have our good Father Godwin. At least he's a fair and simple man.
God sees what is happening on earth, and he is filled with righteous wrath that those who should seek the salvation of souls instead seek mammon and the idle comfort of lucrative posts. Blessed are the shepherds who share the poverty of their flock, who are as one with you and bear with you the burden of this earthly pilgrimage, who do not condemn your venial sins.
Aye, all honour to Godwin. Let him drink like one of us.
That is all I heard in Prague. Amen.
The lad spoke well, considering what a soak he is.
He's right, that Hus.
The young man shouldn't drink so much.
but the Lord's given him a
I'm
silver
glad he
tongue.
came here. I don't suppose I'll ever get to Prague, and he told it nicely.
Well, well, my boy, you have talent, and I can't deny it. And you pulled a thorn from my side. I almost didn't make it.
Yeah, I noticed. And I wasn't the only one.
Oh, what's to be done? I'll make it up somehow.
So, about our bargain.
Although it's a sin.
So gluttony and fornication.
God does forgive a penitent.
So, what did Limpy Lubosh tell you? Was he at Neuhof that day? Who was with him? And where are they now?
Now, slow down. I'm sorry, but he didn't tell me that much.
Don't let me down after all I've been through. For you?
Well, now Lubosh came to me shortly after it happened. His conscience was gnawing at him. And I must say, in the end, he turned out to be a better man than he looked. He said they'd been hired through some crony of theirs. And at first they were just to steal some horses. But then it all turned sour and people started getting killed. And neither he nor his cronies wanted anything to do with that. So they fell out from the gang and fled.
Fell out? Yeah, there was a body found in the woods by Neuhof.
That would explain something. Lubosh kept jabbering that he wasn't a murderer, that he didn't want to do it.
So I know that Lubosh killed the murderer and he's dead too. The trouble is, I need to find the ones who are still alive. I need names and places. Did he mention any of the others?
Only nicknames. Talked about some fella called Riki from Ledechko, Pius, Timmy.
Pius. That lot are about as pious as I am ordained.
Nonsense. You would make an excellent priest. And anyhow, with your skills, you ought to be able to sniff out this Riki from Ledechko, right?
Well, we'll have to now. There's not much else to go on. Let's hope he's not hanging from the wall too.
Indeed. And I'd hate to be excommunicated for nothing. Anyhow, good luck. You watch out for yourself. These people clearly mean business. And I'd like to raise a tankard with you again sometime.
Yeah, I'll try. Although I'm not sure I'd survive another night of your debauchery.
And if anyone should ask, you heard nothing from me. I'll deny everything.
I don't doubt it.
My respects to you.
I'd like to learn to read.
You? You don't look like the makings of a priest or clerk. But why not? I've taught all sorts. Bear in mind, it won't be all that easy. You'll need plenty of time and a few groschen for my trouble.
All right. I don't want to waste time. We can get started. The sooner I master it, the better.
Very well. I will require some groschen from you, though, and set aside at least a couple of days so I can put you through your paces, if indeed time is of the essence.
I don't have enough money. I'll come back when I have. I'd like to discuss the price.
Aye.
Here you are, with a little top-up.
Well now, thank you very much.
I've saved some coin. Could you teach me?
Certainly. Let's get started. No. He did break his vow, but better than to dishonor it here. May he follow his heart. Wake up, lad. It's time we were getting on. So, let's see you read a bit. There's a book here on the table. Try to read it.
Will I manage?
You ought to be able to. It's a simple text. Come back once you've worked your way through it.
I've read the book.
Wonderful. So tell me, what have you learned?
Maybe I'd better read it again.
No need to rush. It's always hard at first.
I've read the book.
Wonderful. So tell me, what have you learned?
That being greedy doesn't pay.
Excellent. You're one of my most talented pupils. You've uncovered the meaning hidden in the letters. Like I told you, books are valuable, and the words that you place in them ought to be no less so.
Does that mean that I can read then?
Yes, you have the foundation. Remember, my boy, the pen is mightier than the sword. To fully learn your way around words will take a lot more reading yet. Now we'll move on to the second lesson, which will be much harder. Many books are written in Latin, the language of erudite and religious men. If you really want to be able to read, there's no getting away from Latin. There's a book on the table with some text. Read it and then come back. You need not understand it, but you should master the letters.
I only just managed the fable about the goose, and now you're asking me to tackle Latin.
You're a clever lad. You'll manage.
Jesus, look where you're going.
I read the page.
So tell me, Distupule, what's written there?
Nullus est liber tam malus, ut non alique parte prosit.
Good heavens! Don't tell me you haven't had lessons before. Excellent. Well, there's nothing more I can teach you. Congratulations. You can go and be ordained right away.
Thank you, Domine. I'm feeling a lot wiser. Let's talk about the price.
Well, we can try it.
What do you say to this?
That's not enough. Aye, that would do it. What? What the hell are you doing?
My respects to you.
I'm looking for a fellow called Riki. Do you know him?
You mean Hinnock? He's the tanner's son, isn't he?
Any idea where I could find him?
I don't know. Tried his folks' house, but he doesn't spend much time there.
So you know this Hinnock. Can you tell me something about him?
Not much, I confess. Most of the village folk avoid him like the plague.
Why's that?
No one with a nose likes spending too much time around tanners. And that Riki keeps bad company. I've never heard a good word said about him.
Why do they call Hinnock Riki anyway?
He's a tanner, isn't he? If you're ever downwind of him, you'll understand. Tanning isn't a trade for the weak of stomach.
True enough, but not every courier gets cursed with a name like that.
Well, a Hennick's nature's no sweeter than his smell.
Don't tell me there's not a single person who talks to him.
He's been seen around with one of the bathhouse wenches. Adela, I believe she's called.
All right.
God be with you.
Let's have a word about the price.
Well, we can try it.
Are we agreed?
Well now, a little more and we'll shake on it.
Agree?
Come now, just a little more and we have a deal. Tough luck. Do you want me to get into trouble? Don't try selling me stolen goods.
Good day to you. What do you need?
I'm looking for a fellow called Riki. Have you ever heard of him?
Sure. Why wouldn't I? That's what they call my son, Hinek.
Ah, you wouldn't happen to know where he is, would you?
I don't know nothing.
Don't you at least know where he usually goes? It's important.
Hinek shows up at home once in a blue moon, so I don't know nothing about where he gets to. Even if I did, why would I tell every Tom, Dick and Harry?
Watch your tongue, peasant. I'm an envoy of Sir Radzig Kobyla, and this is an official investigation. Stop trying to put me off, and tell me where your son is right now.
I apologize if I offended you, young man. But still, I don't know where Hinek is. He turned up at the house a while back, but then he vanished again in a hurry.
And you don't know where he went? What?
Look, it's been clear to me for a long time that my boy was headed for the gallows. But I'm still his father, right? And you can't expect me to rat on my own son.
If you value your son's life at all, you better pray I find him, because I'm not the only one looking for him.
That's no surprise. But what of it? If you're here on behalf of Sir Radzig, there's nothing waiting for Hinek but the gibbet.
I know Hinek's no angel, but I just want to ask him about something. I'm not here to accuse him of anything.
I can't say you put my mind at ease. But to hell with it. I'll tell you what I know. All right. He was here a few days ago, but he left right away. He looked like he was in a hurry.
And you don't know where he went?
I've got an idea, but I don't know where it is exactly.
I don't follow.
Hinek makes some money on the side from poaching. He boasted to me a few times about what a great hideout he found in the woods, but he never told me where it is.
Well, it's not much to go on, but it's better than nothing. Thank you. Don't you have any clue at all where his hideout could be?
I really don't know nothing about that. I could tell when he'd come from there, is all.
How's that?
'Cause every time he brought some hides for tanning and money.
What more do you know?
Nothing. I swear to God Almighty, I've said all I know. Hinek never told me nothing.
Bloody hell. Start using your head or I'll never find Hinek. How much time did he spend away? What was he wearing? How did he look when he came back? Anything?
Well, he came and went at all sorts of hours. I really don't know. Except maybe one thing. He'd come home scratched with brambles and with leaves and muck on him.
So he probably went through thick woods to get to that place.
I reckon. What do I know?
He had money because he sold the stuff right away?
I suppose. He never kept any of his loot here.
Do you know who he sold it to?
No. But the innkeeper came here now and again and gave him coin. Of course, it could have been for me.
All right. I'll ask at the inn then.
There's no greater pleasure than a tub of hot water and your delicate hands on my back.
If it's delicate hands you're after, pay for a whore.
Come now. I am paying, am I not?
What's that? What hole did you crawl out of? You've no business.
I heard you've been seeing Hinek, the tanner's son.
So what? Come to preach at me, have you? That I'm a loose woman, a sinner, that I seduce decent men?
I just wanted to ask you a few questions. It's not my business how you live your life.
I'm glad to hear it. Some folk don't care for the way I make a living.
I can imagine.
So what about you then? You look a bit careworn. A bath with a bit of company might do you good.
Maybe later, sweetheart. Right now, I have some questions to ask.
Ask away then.
Where can I find Hinek?
I haven't seen him in the village for a few days. He must have run off to the woods again.
Does he do that often?
From time to time.
What the hell does he get up to there?
I don't know.
Look, Hinek's my friend, and I really need to know where he is and what he's doing.
But I already told you I don't know where he's got to.
So I suppose he just goes to the woods to pick mushrooms, does he?
Mushrooms, no. More like hares or other game.
So Hinek is a poacher? That's no surprise.
Well, he was never much of one for an honest trade.
Do you know exactly where he goes? Maybe he has some favourite spot he might have told you about?
He said he has some hideout in the woods, but he didn't tell me where.
When did you last see him?
A few days ago. He came to me late in the evening, drunk.
And that was unusual?
I never saw him drink much. He always came to me sober.
So he was acting strangely that evening?
He was strange. I had the feeling he was afraid of something. He keeps prattling on and didn't seem to care about you know what. So I threw him out and I haven't seen him since.
Can you remember anything he said that evening?
Oh, I'm not sure. He went on about some fellow called Lubosh who died, that he was regretting he ever got into it, but he never said what it was, and that it wasn't worth it for the money. Aye, and then he was talking about the money. That was very odd.
You look like you've never seen a woman in your life.
What did he say about the money?
Just that he had a pile of it hidden behind his house.
I see. What did you say to that?
What could I say? He was drunk. He kept saying I was a fine girl, and other harlots wouldn't go with him even for money. And if I wanted, I could even take half the money and leave. Or he'd go with me, and we could get married and such. All just poppycock.
You'd have neither work nor coin.
True. The more I work, the more...
Did he tell you exactly where he hid it?
He said he buried it at his father's small holding in the western corner.
All right, thank you.
Hurry up now and get me cleaned up. Can't wait around all day.
Who's there? Answer me.
What the hell was that? What are you doing here?
Oh, Lord Almighty!
Is there something you need? What's the matter with you? What's it to be? What the hell was that? Hey! Who's there? Hey! Who's there? What's that?
Hmm? I'd like to talk to you about your Hinnock.
I'm very busy, so make it quick.
What can you tell me about the coin I found hidden behind your house?
Coin? What coin? What on earth are you on about?
A pretty pile of groschen nicely stashed away for a rainy day. If I'd known tanning was so lucrative, I'd have switched trades.
I don't know nothing about it.
And I suppose you know nothing about the bloodied gambeson your son hid there too. Of course it would be a shame to throw away such a valuable thing.
Behind my house, you say?
So you really don't know anything about it? Looks like you pulled the wool over your eyes. Still, I'm not surprised he never told you about it, considering how he came by that money.
How did he come by it?
I don't really have time to talk, but I'll put it this way. Hinnock's doing deals with dangerous people. They paid him to do something, and in the end he fell out with them. Now he's hiding from them.
God have mercy. What a fool. He could have at least told me about the money, the little shit.
Forget about that. Tell me where he is.
All right. He was here a few days ago, but he left right away. He looked like he was in a hurry.
And you don't know where he went?
I've got an idea, but I don't know where it is exactly.
I don't follow.
Hinnock makes some money on the side from poaching. He boasted to me a few times about what a great hideout he found in the woods, but he never told me where it is.
Well, it's not much to go on, but it's better than nothing. Thank you.
What's up? You need some help?
Jesus, you stink like a tad of gold.
right, all right.
Good day to you.
I want to ask about the courier's son, Hinek.
But ask someone else. They've nothing to do with Riki. He'd only drive my customers away.
Really? I heard a different story. I heard the two of you do business together.
Who are you, anyway?
A friend of Hinek's. He's gone missing and I need to find him.
I don't know where he is. But if you find the bastard, tell him he still owes me some goods.
You right here.
I've no time for this. I have to find Hinek and you're going to help me.
Am I now? Even if I did know, why the hell would I help you?
This is a nice alehouse you have here. It would be a shame if anything happened to it.
Are you threatening me?
What do you think? So are you going to talk, or do I have to beat it out of you?
Fine. Let's get to the point then.
See now? Where there's a will, there's a way.
I did some deals with Riki, but I swear to God, I don't know where he is.
I hear Hinek has a hideout in the woods he uses for hunting game. Do you know where it is?
Not exactly. That is... I don't know where it is at all.
But
I happen to know it's a dark place, a cave or an old mine shaft.
How do you know that?
Whenever Riki was going poaching, he always came to me first for candles and lamp oil. He brought the game skinned and gutted, so we had to have a light for that.
How much game did he bring you?
Not much, a few pieces. There's no great demand here. Sometimes the gentry has something, otherwise it ends up in sausages.
And do you know of any mine shafts nearby?
There's a few of them around. There's one on the opposite bank, a short way off the path leading from the forge to the west. Then there's a mine gallery to the east of the village, up in the woods above the cliffs. And I heard there's one shaft on the headland close to the water.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Watch you don't break your neck, though. It's rough ground, and you could easily fall down a shaft.
One beer.
Just as you ordered. Coming.
You there! Stop! Surrender! You committed a violation. You're under arrest.
You're dead. I'll slaughter you. Is that all you've got? What's the matter? Come on! Blood will be... Well, that's the end of you.
guys?
What? What the hell are you doing?